So the first thing that most people would not understand is what the media is looking for. And the answer is very straightforward and very simplistic. And that is the media is looking for content. They're always looking for content. So if you've got content that the media are interested in, then there is every chance that they will utilize it, because they need to fill those TV news services. They need to fill their newspapers. They need to fill their radio stations and their news services on radio and their programs. And podcasts need to have guests to talk about products and services and their business and people's views. So it's important you understand that the media are wanting content. And then the second step is very important as well. And we haven't got to the media release, but the second step is then identifying story ideas, Rose, within your business that the media would be interested in.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I would love it if you could go to my YouTube channel and click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to ding the bell so you know when my videos are uploaded. And it is my very great pleasure to introduce you to Mark Aiston. Mark and I have known each other for a little while, and Mark was a sports journalist back in the day, and he's been in the media business since about 1980, and he's currently working at a radio station in Adelaide in South Australia. And Mark had a bit of a change in fortune about 2 years ago, and because of he mental illness, and now he's a great advocate for mental illness and gives talks all around the place and interviews about how people can help themselves and to don't get into drugs and alcohol, basically. So he's been to a lot of footy clubs and talking to the boys and girls about a clean life rather than a dirty life. Anyway, welcome, Mark, and it is my pleasure, and thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Rose. Good to see you again.
And you. Now, I don't know what's happening, and nothing's going on, but it says it's recording, so I'm hoping all's good. So tell me a little bit about your journey since you come out of rehab, because I know it's been really, you've joined a new radio station and you're doing all these sorts of really great stuff around the place. So if you'd just like to share, please, a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yeah, of course, Rose. It was about just on 2.5 years ago. I was in rehab. And at the time it was horrendous. I can remember putting my head down on the pillow on the first night and thinking, oh my God, what on earth is going on? Did it come down to this? But then almost at the same time, I had a sense of relief and thought, wow, this is an opportunity to start again and to get things right. So and that's what I'm attempting to do. I say attempting because it's always a challenge, and when you have when you have dependency issues, it is a day-by-day thing, but I'm doing really well. I mean, I've been clean ever since, which I'm very proud of. When I first came out, I lived with my sister for about 12 months, maybe a fraction longer than that, and I just took it easy. I just took it really easy. I was under no pressure to get a job. My sister was very kind to me, very, very, very generous to me, allowing me to stay at her place with the 2 kids and my dog. And that was, it was a wonderful blessing. And then I started to get back into some of the stuff that I do, some of the online type stuff I do, where I do similar things to what you're doing, only focusing specifically on mental health. And so I started re-recording my podcast, which I'd started prior to going into rehab, which was called The Mental Health Show. And I love doing that, Rose, because it sounds a bit selfish, but obviously I do it so that other people are aware of what's going on and how to help other people, but it also helps me. So I've continued that on all the way through from about 12 odd months ago. And then I started doing a little bit of on-air radio for 5AA over Christmas, which was a blessing because I was working for them prior, and I was very grateful for them to give me the opportunity to go back. Then I started upping the ante with a couple of my online courses, and so I focused because prior to going to rehab, I had a lot of difficulty focusing, and I had an issue with procrastination. So overcoming that gradually, I was able to really focus on my courses and put those together, and then put them up online, and then obviously promote them. So that was another part of what I did. I was keeping myself as fit as I possibly could. And just recently, I started working at Radio Italia Uno, which is an Italian radio station, although we're bilingual, as the general manager. So I've been there for two and a bit months, and that's been a challenge. It's certainly different to being on air, because you're dealing in management and dealing with people and having to keep everyone happy and understanding how managers feel about that and how difficult that can be. So I'm currently doing that, and still talking to people about mental health and addiction. As I said, I enjoy that immensely, and putting more work into my online courses. So that's where I'm at the moment, and it is one day at a time. There's no doubt about it, but I'm certainly 500% further down that wonderful track compared to where I was in that deep dark hole about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've been following your journey for, since just before you went to rehab. So because we'd met in a cafe. I don't even remember if you remember that. But
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. And then I've just I'd followed you on the radio, of course, but after meeting you in person, I followed you a bit more closely. So, But anyway, and I've actually taken up your course, and I'm almost finished it. So that's the 6th step to writing a
media release.
Yes, that's the one of them, and it's really engaging. It's actually, I love the videos. I love it. It's so good.
Well, thank you. I mean, it took me a while. It's actually called 6 Steps to Free Media Publicity, which obviously includes how to write a media release. But yeah, it did take me a long time, and doing any course like that where there's 4 or 5 hours worth of creative content, it's difficult. It's it takes time to write it. It takes time to think about the modules. It takes time to shoot the videos and then find the platform to put it up and all of that. But I'm proud of myself for doing it. It took a long time, but it was worth it. And hopefully it's helping a lot of people who want to do their own publicity.
Yeah, I because I'm with Healing Through Love, I find it quite challenging to write a media release, and doing the course was it's helped me a great deal, and templates that you've given, they're better than the ones I found online, so much more helpful.
Well, that's good, and as you say, it focuses on a number of areas, and one of them is how to write a media release. But I think what people don't understand is they don't understand what the media want, and they don't understand how to identify a story idea within their business. And you need to know that before you write the media release, otherwise you sort of don't really know what you're doing. So hopefully it covers all of the topics and all of the areas that people who work in and run public relations firms, they know that. And when you go to a PR firm and obviously pay a monthly fee and obviously pay a fee when they get you publicity, hopefully the course is clear enough and interesting enough to give people who want to do their own publicity those tools, which was the goal.
I'm wanting to know if you'll share a little bit about, I mean, I don't want you to give the whole course content away, but I would like you to share with the audience, please, just some of the things that they should be mindful of when they are writing a press release, because I know it's really important to get the steps right. If you don't get them right, then it's just going to end up in the shredder. So
no, of course, I'm more than happy to do that. So I'll go back a step, and I'll give you a brief overview of the key points that you need to know. Brief overview, and this will be enough for people to at least start thinking, okay, that's something I'd like to do, or it's too overwhelming. So I mentioned earlier, you need to understand what the media wants. And the media at the moment, because they're so busy and because there's so much media out there, there's 24-hour news services. There's a news service in the morning, or there's Today, and there's Sunrise, and there's the ABC has a breakfast show, and then there's a lunchtime news service, and then there's the 6 o'clock, and then there's the evening, and there's newspapers and publications, and obviously a whole lot of radio stations, and indeed podcasts, and indeed what we're doing here.
Source bottles are a huge place to be putting out your media releases.
Absolutely. So the first thing that most people would not understand is what the media is looking for. And the answer is very, 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 very straightforward and very simplistic. And that is the media is looking for content. They're always looking for content. So if you've got content that the media are interested in, then there is every chance that they will utilize it, because they need to fill those TV news services. They need to fill their newspapers. They need to fill their radio stations and their news services on radio and their programs. And podcasts need to have guests to talk about products and services and their business and people's views. So it's important you understand that the media are wanting content. And then the second step is very important as well. And we haven't got to the media release, but the second step is then identifying story ideas, Rose, within your business that the media would be interested in. Now, with respect, most people would have no clue. They would have no clue. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you're a veterinarian, and let's say you want to start to develop a bit of a relationship with the media and get in the media, and you want to do that at no cost. In other words, you don't want to buy commercials. You want to just become an expert, or you want to start to build that journey where eventually the media start coming to you if there's a story about a dog or a virus or a cat issue or whatever it might be. And so if you're a veterinarian and there, for example, is let's say you're based in Adelaide, let's say there's a virus that's broken out in Tasmania, for example. Now, as a veterinarian, you should be aware of that. You should be aware of what's going on, certainly in your region and certainly in your country. And so even though that virus hasn't hit South Australia or Adelaide, as a veterinarian, you should be thinking, now, that's a nasty virus. It might get to Adelaide, it may not, but that means that you then have an opportunity to what you call piggyback off the back of another story. And then, and I'll say this simplistically, and then I'll just run through some of the key points of how to write a proper media release. You would then write a media release saying how concerned you are about that virus. And what you would do is you would say, if it does come here, here are 3 things you need to look out for, 3 symptoms you need to look out for with your dog to ensure that he or she hasn't got it, or if one of those symptoms occur, then there's every chance they may have it, which means you need to take them to the vet. So in a very general sense, that's what you'd put in that media release. You would then send it to Channel 10. I'm talking Adelaide here. Channel 10, Channel 9, Channel 7, the ABC, 5AA, 891, which are 2 talk stations, probably to FM stations as well, because a lot of people have got cats and dogs, and a lot of people are worried about their pets and they love their pets. And you would send it to the newspapers locally. And so you would send that to them. And what happens is, and I'll give you an insight into how a journalist or a chief of staff, who is the person that probably would get that media release, let's say at Channel 10, in the Channel 10 newsroom, what they would do is they'd get that media release and they'd go, well, that's interesting. Yes, I saw that story. That's happened in Tasmania. It hasn't happened here. Now, remember, this is the media thinking now. Hasn't happened here, but this guy's interesting. He's a veterinarian, and he's actually saying these are the things that the dog owners need to look out for to ensure that their dog doesn't get this virus, or these are the symptoms to indicate that their dog does have a problem. So the media think, and this is how they think a lot of our viewers have got dogs. Let's run this story. We're not going to say the virus is here. We're just going to say something like a major warning from a local veterinarian who says we must ensure that we take precautions, to make sure that, I'm just making this up as I go, but to make sure that our pet dog, is not subjected to this virus that's just hit Tasmania. And so what happens is the media are what we call localizing it. So it's a Tasmanian story, but they'll do the story in Adelaide saying, if the virus does come here, this is what veterinarian Mark Aiston says you should look out for, or this is what you should do if your dog gets the virus, or this is what you should do to ensure your dog doesn't get the virus. And that might be, don't take him to the park for a week, don't let him drink out of someone else's bowl, feed him this, whatever it might be. And so then they come out to the veterinarian's vet clinic, they interview Mark Aiston. Mark Aiston standing in front of his veterinarian clinic sign, saying things like, yes, this is a very dangerous virus. I grant it. It hasn't come here to Adelaide, but let's not be, let's not rest on our laurels, and just understand that these are the symptoms. So you need to watch out for them, or whatever it might be. So that night that story goes to air. It didn't cost that veterinarian a cent. And what happens is it increases his or her credibility, provided they perform well on camera. They don't want to be a bumbling, mumbling fool, but people will look at that and they will think far more credibility, or they'll think that veterinarian has far more credibility when they see them on a news story, as opposed to if that veterinarian spent $5,000 on some commercials. Because when you spend that amount of money on a commercial, or any amount of money on a commercial, obviously you are going to say something good about your business, and people know that. But when you are not promoting your business, but you're doing it indirectly in a news story, then what happens, Rose, is people go, gee, she knows what she's talking about. That's interesting. She comes across as being really empathetic and very knowledgeable. She's not in our area, but we should take our dog down and get him desexed. So that's how it works. That's just one example of a veterinarian's, an example with a veterinarian. And just very briefly, so when you write your media release, what you need to do is you need to write your headline that is interesting, that is different, that is eye-catching. And when the person within the newsroom gets that media release, whether it be via email, generally it's via email these days, or it might be faxed, and they open it and read it, that top 2 or 3 lines must stand out. Because they are so busy, Rose, they'll just read the top line. If there's no interest, they'll just throw it in the bin. And yet it might be a good story, but the person has what we call buried the lead. So they haven't written it in a way where that first paragraph, which should be in 20-point font, capitalized and bolded, hasn't stood out well enough. And of course, and that it needs to be something that, as I say, switches the light on in the journalist or the chief of staff, and they go, wow, that's interesting. And again, let me have another go at it. It might be something like Tasmanian virus, a danger to South Australian dog owners, 3 tips or 3 things you must ensure you do to make sure your dog is safe, or something like that.
Yeah.
I've just thought about that off the top of my head, but that sort of headline gets the chief of staff or the reporter interested straight away. Then they read the next 2 or 3 pars, which are a background on what's going on in Tasmania, how it's dangerous to dogs in South Australia, maybe a quote from the veterinarian, maybe some more tips, and then the contact details down the bottom. That is the type of media release. And I hope I explained that well enough. That's the type of media release based around a story that's going on at the moment that the media would be interested in. And the reason that they'd be interested in it, and I'll mention it again, is because there are a number of reasons. The first one is if it's a TV news service, they're thinking, a lot of our viewers, I mentioned this earlier, a lot of our viewers have dogs. So they know that they've got an instantaneous audience. They know that when people hear in a promo, beware of this virus in Tasmania, anyone with a dog is going to go, oh, I better watch that story. That's the first reason. The second reason is that it's information. It's key information for those people. So it's not just saying the story's happening. It's saying these are the things that you need to do to ensure your dog doesn't get the virus, or to identify whether or not your dog has got the virus, or whatever. So there's 2 reasons why the media would think this is a good story, even though it's not here in Adelaide at this point. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. But, and you're right that the general public don't know how to do a media release. I didn't know how to do one either until I took your course. What you can go to Dr. Google all you like, but until someone actually explains it to you in plain English so that it can be understood, as you do in your videos. I was still a little bit confused about what I was supposed to write. Some say you're supposed to do this and some say you do that. But, you've been in the media for like 30 years or something. You've got to know what they want. And
yeah, well, that's right.
And it makes it more credible. I think that coming from somebody who's been in the media and has looked at press releases from football clubs or whatever, you would know what you were looking for. So you'd know what the general journalist populace would be looking for.
Yeah. And sometimes there's no news angle, which means it's not a story. Sometimes they've buried the lead. In other words, as I explained earlier, I didn't explain exactly what that was. Sometimes they've buried the main point down the bottom of the media release. And politicians and governments do that. If there's a major issue, what they'll do is they'll bury that so that when the media sees that media release, if they don't get down to the bottom bit, they might miss it out. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like if it's bad news, but you don't want to do that if you're trying to promote a story. You want to, and maybe just to be even clearer, hopefully, let's say you're a financial advisor and you want to start getting yourself in the media. You want to be seen as an expert. You want to be, you want to be the go-to person if there's a financial story that's occurring. You want the media to ring you, and that'll eventually happen, but you've got to go to them first. So let's say, for example, there's an interest rate rise for the first time next month. You can sit back in your office as a financial advisor and just sit there and hope the media will ring you, or you can send a media release out and you can put your spin on that, send it to the organisations, and you, again, admittedly, and we go through it in the course, you need to know where to send it. And obviously that varies depending on the state and the country you're in, but that's just research. You just need to find those email addresses. And so you would send that media release to the media about your take on the latest interest rate rises. And what will happen is when that story occurs, the media will be looking for 2 or 3 people. They'll be looking for probably a grab from the finance minister that announced it or someone from the government. They'll be looking for a family who are being affected by it, whether it's good or bad. And they'll be looking for an expert. And you can be that expert, but you need to let the media know you're available. And the exciting part is, over a period of time, when you start to build that relationship with the media, they start to come to you. So there's a major change in superannuation just been announced by the government, and the journalist walks into the newsroom and the chief of staff says, well, we need a story on this. And he goes, yeah, okay, I'll give Mark Aiston a ring. He's been fantastic over the last 12 months. He's been sending it. So they start to come to you. And then that's when you become the go-to person. Sometimes you can get a story once every 2 weeks. It's just free publicity, Rose.
That's exactly right. And that's what a business owner wants. They want the free publicity and free advertising for their business, but they're still giving information out that's factual.
Well, that's right.
And it has to be factual information. It's no good fluffing it up and embellishing the truth, as some people do.
That's a really good point, Rose. And also, to take that a step further, it just can't be an advertisement for your business.
No.
You've got to give something, because what happens is you get the advertisement for your business indirectly when you're on camera, when your name is, Mark Aiston, Aiston's Veterinary Clinic, and with what you're saying, or if you're lucky enough, and this is even better, if you're lucky enough to, well, not lucky enough, but if a radio station rings you and says, look, we'd like you to come into the studio, we want to talk to you about this issue, and you're in there for half an hour taking calls. I mean, that's just half an hour of precious free publicity. And again, provided you, and we cover it in the course, but provided you're prepared for that and you know what you're talking about, which you should, then it's just free publicity. It doesn't cost you a cent. That's right. Even if you get no customers out of it, or if you get no clients out of it, or make nothing out of it, you haven't lost anything. Nothing. You haven't lost it. You haven't lost a cent. Yeah. It's just a bit of time. But after a while, when you become that go-to person, you'd be surprised at how many, there's Mark Aiston, he's the local veterinarian there. He's walking down the street, or, who's that guy talking on the radio? I know that. But, that's Mark Aiston. That's the veterinarian that they always interview. He's really good. That's awareness, brand awareness. It's brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, free publicity is better than no publicity, that's for sure.
It is. And as I said at the start, Rose, I firmly believe that doing it this way, and admittedly you need to learn the steps, but doing it this way, parking the fact that it's free, I firmly believe, and I stand by this, that it is far more credible than a paid commercial. Because a paid commercial, as I said earlier, clearly is going to say, Mark Aiston's veterinarian, the best in the state, looking after dogs for 30 years, credibility, wonderful care. Obviously, those things are going to be said, but they're not said when you're on TV doing a story about it. But it's that inferred credibility.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's more valuable. Yeah,
it is. All right, Mark. I know you haven't written any books yet, but you do have a podcast. So, if you could just tell everybody what it is?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's brilliantly named, Rose. It's called The Mental Health Show. I mean, really. I mean, I'm so creative. Really, The Mental Health Show. Who would have thought? And I've been doing that now on and off for about 2.5 years, and I just enjoy interviewing people who have had lived experience or have been through tough times and have got through them, how they've got through them, and also obviously people who are perhaps involved in the mental health industry. So I enjoy doing that. It's just called The Mental Health Show, and it's on the Ozcast network.
Beautiful. I think it's really important that there are shows like yours, especially now, since the pandemic's come around, because there are a lot of people who have been in lockdown for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm sure their mental health is really suffering. And
I think that's a major issue, Rose. I think that's that's a discussion for another time, but I think that's a major issue. Yeah,
it is. It's a huge issue. Anyway, so where can people find you and your course?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. It's just simply 6 steps. The number 6 steps to free media publicity.com.au. And there's a heap of information on the front page. And there's another couple of pages here. There's a contact page and a page about me, a little bit of detail about me. And if you just go into the website, 6 steps to free media publicity.
Perfect. Well, they'll be in the show notes anyway, but I just wanted you to remember it.
Rose, thank you.
You're welcome. And any final words?
Well, as I said, my journey is a day-by-day journey, but it's important that you keep yourself as fit as possible. I know this all sounds very cliched and obvious, but it's also important that if you're unwell, that you talk to someone and someone you trust. In my case, it's my sister and my brother. But that's the message that I relay when I do talks. I don't get up on a soapbox and say you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that. All I say is if you do those things, this is where you could end up. If you don't do those things, and I know that's easy said than done, I know that, but then this path is so much better and more bright, and the joy of it. And I just leave you with maybe something as simple as this. Now that I'm so much more well, I appreciate things that I never really appreciated before. I drove a lovely car many years ago, and I had a significant job and 2 major jobs and earning a lot of money, and I had a beautiful house and a whole range of things. And I'd give those things up again to be well. So it's the little things that are really important. Just my dog, the fact that I've got a bed, the fact, I know it sounds corny, but the fact that I can, after this, put my head down on 2 pillows and I know they're clean, and I know that I've got clean sheets, the fact that I've got a roof over my head, those things are sometimes are forgotten when we get on that treadmill of life.
I agree. It's a wake up every morning and be grateful for what you have, and don't stress the little stuff, because it's not worth your health.
No, it's not. And the other thing I'm really appreciative of is those flowers in the background.
They're beautiful. Who gave them to you?
Well,
I'm jealous now.
They're actually not real.
Oh, Oh, they're beautiful though.
They're actually not real, but they're really good. I just have to keep cleaning them, that's all. Aren't they beautiful? They're very
They are
clean.
beautiful, yes.
Bit
I thought they were real. I thought they were real. They're gorgeous.
No, and this is, I know this is getting completely out of hand, but before we go, that's my father passed away 10 years ago.
Yes.
He was a champion runner.
Yes.
And that's when he won his title in about 1964. And I've got to hang that up in the wall because I miss him.
Good on you, Keith. All right.
How did you know it was Keith?
I know lots of things.
For heaven's sake, wow. Are you psychic?
All right, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. Don't go anywhere. I want to talk to you after we've finished here. But thank you so much for joining me. And look, anyone, go and do Mark's PR course because you'll gain so much out of it. And if you want free publicity, learn to write your own media releases. Anyway, thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate it.
Talking with the experts.